Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss book 58 in R.L. Stine's Goosebumps original series, Deep Trouble 2. So this is the sequel book to one of the original Goosebumps books we talked about months ago. We've been doing this for a while, bro. Wild times. Wild. It's been, what, 5 months? May, June, July, August, September. 5 months. Wild. So Billy and Sheena Deep are back. They're spending another summer vacation, and the continuity is there. And I'm so happy because we've had so many problems with sequels where it says last summer when it was really the winter, or last fall when it was really the summer. And here we have last summer and it was actually last summer, and I was so happy. And the cover art matches because there's a giant goldfish at one point, and I'm like, oh, finally, everything works. It's 113 pages. It's super quick. Billy and Sheena Deep are back for Summer Vacation Part 2, the second summer vacation, a year later. So they're now 11 and 13, respectively, compared to the 10 and 12-year-olds that they were. So Billy, being the older brother, picks on his sister. Younger sister picks on her brother. They're back with their uncle, Dr. Deep, who's a marine biologist. He is continuing to examine different fish, different species, different life within the Caribbean Sea that they're on. The floating lab boat that he has, the Cassandra, is... Why am I still holding this? Is now on another quest, on another mission. And he's trying to figure out why there's gigantic fish randomly popping up, right? It's weird. So he's collected a bunch of different these samples of plankton that, you know, he's noticed it like popped up recently. It's like, what is this? So he finds this gigantic fish, and it turns out to be a minnow, who's supposed to be itty bitty minnow, but it's big. So they feed the goldfish that Billy has in a bowl along with a snail some of the plankton. They explode. Just massive, gigantic fish flopping around the cabin. So they shoo them out and throw them into the ocean, hoping they survive because goldfish are freshwater fish versus the ocean, which is saltwater. And then the snail is just covered in slime, and he's suffocating Dr. Deep, and there's this whole fighting scene of trying to get him out of there. It's very entertaining. There's a rival scientist now, Dr. Ritter, who has two associates, two henchmen, if you will. And Dr. Ritter reveals that he himself created this plankton, which is in turn turning all of these organisms into massive fish. And so the plankton were formulated with certain growth hormones to make the fish larger. That way we can end world hunger. But nobody can know about this because only he needs to know about this, because he needs to take all the credit, nobody else. So he's on a quest now to kill Dr. Deep, Sheena, and Billy. So they escape Ritter's boat by getting onto a little dinghy, a rubber dinghy kind of a boat. They get shipwrecked on an island, deserted island for a day, have to eat coconuts, fight off a gigantic crab. Then they find their dinghy washed out to shore, but then comes back within gigantic dolphins. So they hitch a ride on the gigantic dolphins back to their own boat, which conveniently happened to be in the passing of the dolphins, where Ritter is back saying he turned his henchmen into fish, that if humans drink the plankton, they'll turn into fish forever, whereas if fish drink the plankton, eat the plankton, they'll just turn into gigantic. So it has different alternate effects depending on the organism. Fine, we're talking about science, we're getting there. So there's the massive battle with Dr. Ritter, and he forces Billy to drink a plankton bottle, and Billy doesn't turn into a fish. And he's like, what's going on? This works. I just did this with my henchmen. So he himself, is fighting with everybody, and just says, the hell with this. Drinks a bottle of the plankton that Dr. Deep had collected for samples, turns into a fish, flops into the ocean. And that's it. He can never share this with anybody because he's now a fish. He can't prove anything. So Dr. Deep, Sheena are trying to figure out how Billy didn't turn into a fish. And he's like, well, obviously I'm superhuman. And he's like, no, see, you pranked me with putting your doll's head in my goldfish tank. I was going to prank you. And I cleaned out one of the plankton bottles, and I put iced tea mix in there. And that way I would prank you and say, hey, watch me drink some plankton, when it's really just IT mix floating in the water. And when Dr. Ritter forced me to pick a bottle, I knew exactly which bottle to pick because I was the one that I planted for your prank, but it conveniently worked for his prank. Very cool. So that's how he stayed human. And Sheena's like, oh, I did the same thing to you. And she grabs a bottle and she drinks, and then she's getting all like, oh, I don't feel so good. And then that's it. That's the end of page 113. Did Sheena turn into a fish? That's the last book of the Deeps. So we won't know. Very entertaining, very quick, very fun. The plot corresponds to the cover. the continuity with last summer to last summer. This was a perfect sequel. I have no qualms, no problems with this. It's just cute. It's what are we gonna do with the big fish? Am I gonna have to kill someone to prove that the fish aren't real? It was a thing. It wasn't like spooky, scary, like horror, but it was just like, potential murder. But there wasn't murder, and everybody is fine at the end. So that's it. That's all I got. Book 58, R.L. Stine's Goosebumps original 62 book series. We're almost there. Deep Trouble 2. On to the next review. Mucho mahalo.